felicity, and so on. So now what is good? I feel goodness is total order, not only outwardly but especially inwardly. I think that order can be absolute. As in mathematics, we believe there is complete order, and it is disorder that leads to chaos, to destruction, to anarchy, to the so-called evil. Yes. Whereas total order in one's being, order in the mind, order in one's heart, order in one's physical activities, the harmony between the three is goodness. The Greeks used to say that perfected man had attuned in total harmony his mind, his heart, and his body. Quite. So we shall say for the moment that goodness is absolute order. And as most human beings live in disorder, they contribute to every form of mischief, which ultimately leads to destruction, to brutality, to violence, to various injuries, both psychic and physical. For all that one word may be used, evil. But I don't like that word evil because it is loaded with Christian meaning, with condemnation and prejudice. Conditioning. That's right. In India and in Asia, the words evil, sin are always loaded, as goodness is always loaded. So could we brush away all the accumulations around these words and look at it as though anew? That is there absolute order in oneself? Can this absolute order be brought about in oneself and therefore in the outer world? Because the world is me, and I am the world. My consciousness is the consciousness of the world, and the consciousness of the world is me. So when there is order within the human being, then there is order in the world. Now, can this order right through be absolute? Which means order in the mind, in the heart, and in the bodily activities? That is, complete harmony. How can this be brought about? That is one point. Then the other point is, in order something to be copied according to a design, is order pre-established by thought, by the intellect, and copy in action by the heart, or in relationship? So is order a blueprint? How is this order to be brought about? Right. Order is virtue, and disorder is not virtue, is harmful, is destructive, is impure, if we can use that word. One thinks of the Sanskrit word adharma. Adharma, yes. So in order something put aside according to a design drawn by knowledge, thought, or is order outside the field of thought and knowledge? One feels there is absolute goodness, not as an emotional concept, but one knows if one has gone into oneself deeply, and there is such a thing, complete, absolute, irrevocable goodness or order. And this order is not a thing put together by thought. If it is, then it is according to a blueprint. But if it is imitated, then the imitation leads to disorder, or to conformity. Conformity, imitation, and denial of what is the beginning of disorder, leading ultimately to what may be called evil. So we are asking, is goodness, which is order and virtue, is it the product of thought, which means can it be cultivated by thought? Can virtue ever be cultivated? To cultivate implies to bring slowly into being, which means time. Mental synthesis. Yes, now is virtue the result of time, and is order therefore a matter of evolution? And so is absolute order, absolute goodness, a matter of slow growth, cultivation, all involving time. As we said the other day, thought is the response of memory, knowledge, and experience, which is the past, which is stored up in the brain. In the brain cells themselves, the past is. So does virtue lie in the past, and is it therefore cultivatable to be pushed forward? Or is virtue order only in the now? The now is not related to the past. You are saying that goodness is order, and that order is not the product of thought, but order, if it exists at all, must exist in behavior. Behavior in the world and in relationship. People always think that proper behavior and relationship in the world must be planned, that order is always the result of planning. Quite often people get the idea when they have listened to you that awareness, the state of being you speak about, in which there is no room for the action of thought. They get the feeling that this is a sort of disincarnate energy which can have no action and no relationship to the world of men and events and behavior. They think that therefore it has no real value and not what you might call a temporal and historical significance. Right, sir. You were saying that goodness is order and order is not plan. When we talk about order, don't we mean order in behavior, in relationship, not an abstract order? Not a goodness in heaven, but order, goodness in relationship and action in the now. When we talk about planning, obviously there must be planning at a certain level. Architecture, building railways, going to the moon, and so on. There must be a design, a planning, a very coordinated, intelligent operation taking place. We are surely not mixing up the two. There must be planning, order, cooperation, the carrying out together of certain plans, a well laid out city, a community, all that demands planning. We are talking of something entirely different. We are asking if there is absolute order in human behavior, if there is absolute goodness as order in oneself and therefore in the world. And we said order is not planned, can never be planned. If it is planned, then the mind is seeking security, because the brain demands security. Seeking security, it will suppress or destroy or pervert what is and try to conform, imitate. This very imitation and conformity is disorder, from which all the mischief begins. The neuroses and various distortions of the mind and the heart. Planning implies knowledge, thinking, and ordering the thought as ideas. So we are asking, is virtue the outcome of planning? Obviously, it is not. The moment your life is planned according to a pattern, then you are not living. You are merely conforming to a certain standard, and therefore that conformity leads to contradiction in oneself. The what is and the what should be that breeds contradiction and therefore conflict. That very conflict is the source of disorder. So order, virtue, goodness is in the moment of the now, and therefore it is free of the past. That freedom can be relative. How do you mean? One may be conditioned by the culture in which one lives, by the environment, and so on. One either frees oneself totally from all the conditioning and therefore is absolutely free, or there may be partial unconditioning. Yes, get rid of one set of conditions and fall into another, or just discard one set like Christianity and its taboos, so that slow discarding may appear orderly, but it is not, because the slow peeling off of conditioning may temporarily give the appearance of freedom, but is not absolute freedom. Are you saying that freedom is not the result of a particular operation with regard to one conditioning or another? That's right. You have said that the freedom is at the beginning and not at the end. Is that what you mean? Yes, that's it. Freedom is now, not in the future. So freedom, order, or goodness is now, which expresses itself in behavior. Yes, else it has no meaning. Otherwise, it has no meaning at all. Behavior in relationship not only with a particular individual who is close to you, but behavior with everybody. In the absence of all those elements of the past which make most people behave, what will make us behave? This freedom seems so many people such a disincarnate thing, such a bleak sky, such an immaterial thing. What is it in that freedom which will make us behave in the world of people and events with order? Sir, look, we said in the last conversation that I am the world and the world is me. We said the consciousness of the world is my consciousness. My consciousness is the world's consciousness. When you make a statement of that kind, either it is purely verbal and therefore has no meaning at all, or it is something actual, living, vital. When one realizes that it is vital, and that realization is compassion, real compassion, not for one or two, but compassion for everybody, for everything. Freedom is this compassion, which is not disincarnate as an idea, as a state of withdrawal. My relationship is only in the now, not in the past. Because if my relationship is rooted in the past, I am not related now. So freedom is compassion. And that comes when there is the real deep realization that I am the world is me. Freedom, compassion, order, virtue, goodness are one. And that is absolute. Now what relationship has non-goodness, which has been called evil, sin, original sin? What relationship has that with this marvelous sense of order, which is not the product of thinking, of civilization, of culture? What is the relationship between the two? There is none. So when we move away from this order, move away in the sense of misbehave, does one enter into the field of evil, if we can use that word? Or is evil something totally apart from the good? Whether deviation from the order of goodness is already an entry into the field of evil, or can these two not even touch at all? That's right. I may misbehave. I may tell a lie. I may consciously or unconsciously hurt another, but I can clear it. I can wipe it away by apologizing, by saying, "Forgive me." It can be done immediately. It can be ended. So I am finding out something, which is the non-ending of it, carrying it over in one's mind day after day, as hate, as a grudge, guilt, fear. Does that nourish the evil you follow? Yes. If I continue with it, keep within my mind the grudge which I bear against you, carry it on day after day, the grudge which involves hate, envy, jealousy, antagonism, all that is violence. So what is the relationship of violence to evil and goodness? We are using the word evil very cautiously, because I don't like that word at all. So what is the relationship between violence and goodness? Obviously none at all. But the violence which I have cultivated, whether it is in the product of society, the product of the culture, the environment, or inherited from the animal, that violence, by becoming aware of it, can be wiped away. Yes, not a gradual wiping away. Wipe it away as you wipe out a clean. Take a mark off the wall, then you are always in that goodness. Are you saying that goodness is a wholly negative affair then? Yes, it must be. And in that way, the negative is not related at all to the positive, because it is not the result of a gradual decline or accumulation of the positive. The negative exists when the positive is wholly absent. Yes, put it round the other way. The negation of the grudge, the negation of violence, and the negation of the community of the violence. That negation of it is the good. It is the emptying. The emptying of violence is the richness of the good. Therefore, the good is always intact. Yes, it is never broken up, not fragmented. Sir, wait. So, is there such a thing as absolute evil? I don't know. If you have ever considered this, I have seen in India little statues made of clay, in which needles or thorns have been put. I've seen it very often. The image is supposed to represent a person whom you want to hurt. In India, there are very long thorns. You have seen them from bushes, and they are stuck into these clay statuettes. I didn't know they did that in India. I have seen it. Now there is a determined action to produce evil in another, to hurt another, an intent. The intent, the ugly, deep hatred. This must be evil, sir. What is its relationship to good? Good being all that we have said. That is a real intent to hurt people. Organized disorder, one might say. Organized disorder, which is the organized disorder of a society that rejects the good. Because the society is me, I am the society. If I don't change, society cannot change. And here is the deliberate intention to hurt another, whether it is organized as war or not.